President Trump promising more money to rebuild the military. During a video conference with U.S. troops overseas yesterday, he also congratulated them for their progress made in fighting the Islamic State.
The fight against ISIS, it's coming our way. It's coming our way. Big, big difference. A lot of things have happened. They say we've made more progress against ISIS than they did in years of the previous administration. And that's because I'm letting you do your job.
Former U.S. Army intelligence officer Andrew Peek joining us now. We'll get to a place you know a lot about, which is Afghanistan, in a minute. But specifically to this issue of ISIS, the president's saying, I'm letting you do your jobs. The contrapositive of that, President Obama didn't let you do your jobs. Fair that he should get the credit for ISIS's downfall?
Yeah, I think there's an argument that he definitely, in two respects, contributed to the defeat of ISIS. I think, first of all, clearly Trump delegated more operational authority to the military. The Obama National Security Council was famous for kind of micromanaging military operations. I think, secondly, very early in his administration, back in February, the Trump administration made the pretty bold decision to go ahead and empower the Syrian Kurds to capture Raqqa, the Islamic State's capital. Now, Obama had been holding back on that decision because he was afraid of angering the Turks, but Trump went ahead and did that, and I think he genuinely deserves a lot of credit for that.
From what you hear from the folks who are still in the military, does he seem to trust his military commanders' judgment and advice more than President Obama did?
Absolutely. You know, I think there is a legacy during the campaign of him enjoying talking about the military. He clearly likes how well it runs, the can-do attitude. I think one of the problems with the Obama National Security Council was that there was really nobody up there with significant military experience after the first NSC director had been fired, who was a four-star general.
All right, so we saw the president there when he met with the Coast Guardsmen and talked about sort of the work they had done, especially with Hurricane Harvey. He also was on a video conference where he talked to troops mostly in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Incirlik Air Force Base in Turkey, and you can see video of him there on the secure video conference. In that conversation, he talked about how much better things were going to get in Afghanistan, and this is what the four-star general in Afghanistan had to say in response.
The new authorities that I've been given allow me to go after the enemy in new ways. So previously, I could use air power in close support of Afghan forces. Now, in working with the Afghan government in complementary actions, we can go after all of the facets of the enemy operation.
All right, decode that for us.
Well, I think Mick Nicholson, who is the commander in that picture.
He was about to get fired, right, at one point?
Who reportedly was on thin ice. I actually served with in Afghanistan. He is a killer. He's one of the best generals this country has. I think what the president has done is to roll back some of the rules of engagement in terms of us taking on the Taliban, right? Our aircraft coming to the support of Afghan who are fighting the Taliban, not just al-Qaeda. So the Obama administration really wanted to make sure that we really only engaged militarily on certain targets like AQ. And I think Obama says, hey, and I think Trump says, hey, we need to win the war overall.
It makes sense that if you take the gloves off, so to speak, you're going to be able to inflict a lot more damage on your enemies. These are the same people who they dropped the mother of all bombs on, right?
They are, yeah.
Okay. And as we're watching, this is file video of what looks like the liberation of a number of cities by the Kurds and others from ISIS. Back to this sort of, if we tie this all together, the president vis-a-vis the military, giving them a lot more latitude on other things as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly one of the narratives that's emerged from in the first year of the administration has been that the top officials Trump feels most comfortable with are the military officers, who, for a variety, I think, of reasons. But there are other elements like Trump bumping up the Pentagon's budget, $54 billion over congressional limits. Trump delegating more operational control to Mick Nicholson, and genuinely enjoying allowing the Pentagon to take control of some of these events.
The Pentagon may be taking control, but the Pentagon's got a big issue with what they call mishaps, what the rest of us would probably call plane crashes, helicopter crashes, and ships running into each other. We just lost 3 U.S. sailors over the past couple of days in a crash. We've had other crashes, a lot of reporting out of the Pentagon that half of America's F-A-18 fighter jets can't fly. And then we had John McCain saying that this is a self-inflicted wound. $54 billion, is that enough?
You know, I think there's 2 components of this. One is overall management of the Pentagon, right? And that's always going to be an ongoing issue.
President's the commander-in-chief.
President he's only been there for 10 months, so I mean, this is the biggest government agency with discretionary funding in the U.S. Secondly, there is this issue of the U.S. Navy Pacific Fleet, which is a serious problem, which has had event after event after event this year that has caused casualties. Ships crashing, planes crashing. Famously, the Pacific Fleet is kind of looser run than the Atlantic Fleet, which is closer to D.C., which is a little bit more tightly knit. So I think you're going to see a real cultural change out there.
Well, the commander of the Pacific Fleet, the 7th Fleet, was already sacked by Admiral Richardson, commander of naval operations. But in a larger sense, what they will tell you, if you talk to folks out there, is, yeah, you're right, we've got issues. But we've got sailors who are on watch 100 hours a week. We've got planes that were built in the 1950s, far older than the people who are flying them. So is it really a cultural issue or with the fleet, or is it perhaps a larger issue of military readiness?
Well, I think you could make the argument, yes, that the ongoing operations overseas have diverted money from training and long-term weapon systems purchases that have hurt the Navy more than any other service. I do think, though, the Pacific Fleet is really just has a cultural problem right now, and that's got to be segmented away from the other issues that plague the Pentagon.
All right, Melissa's got a lot more on just that issue. Andrew, thanks a lot. Good to see you.
Thanks, Leland.